Hey everybody, how you doing? This is Roman Polnar coming to you live, and welcome to our Financial Aid Wednesdays. So today is Wednesday, February 9th, and we're officially in the college acceptance season. Now, this is where kids are about to get their acceptance letters from colleges that they were accepted to, and they're going to start soon receiving their financial aid offers. And in fact, for a lot of families, this has already started. And right now, they're scrambling to figure out, how are they going to pay for college? Are they going to get more financial aid? Do they need more financial aid? In which case, how do they get it? And so, on today's episode, we're going to talk about the golden rules of appealing your financial aid awards. There are three golden rules. And I'm going to tell you what they are in just a moment. And we're also going to spend some time talking about the best appeal tips for those families whose kids are just getting accepted to college and are in need of more money. Because the reality is, most people need more money. And I won't go into the rant about why, other than the fact that colleges are expensive. Most colleges don't give enough financial aid. And so families are often left scrambling to find ways to bridge that affordability gap between the amount that they've got saved and the amount that the colleges want them to pay. And so that difference usually is made up in loans. And unfortunately, the student loan companies know this. They know that most colleges won't give you enough financial aid, and they also know that you're going to be up against the deadline pretty soon. In about 2 months, your kids are going to have to make a decision about where they're going to go. So, we're going to help you find more money. So, ready? Let's first talk about the three golden rules of appealing the financial aid. So, whenever your kids get their first financial aid offer, I want you to remember these three things. Number one, the first offer is not their final offer. Number two, the first offer is usually not their best offer. And number three, if you don't ask, you won't get. Simple as that. And in many, many cases, just asking will get you more money. However, if you want to get the most amount of money, just asking is not enough. You got to ask in the right way. And that's exactly what I'm going to talk to you about in this live cast. So, if you're watching us live, if you've got any questions, if you have comments, drop them in the comments below. We're live streaming, so yeah, you're welcome to drop a note, and I'll do my best to keep an eye out on the comments, and I'll let you know, or I'll reply as best I can. And if it's something that's confidential, just send me a direct message or put a note in the comments that you want me to reach out personally, and we will. And for everybody that's watching us live or watching the replay, every single time I do one of these, I offer a complimentary 15-minute session. Now, this is not in perpetuity. I wouldn't be able to do it all day long, but if it's your first time connecting with us, you've got 15 minutes absolutely free to join on a call and ask anything that is going to help you get more money to send your kids to college. So, if this is helpful, give me the thumbs up so I know that this is hitting the right tones. And if you've got other questions, drop them in the comments below. So, without further ado, let's get rolling. Let me share with you some tips. Tip number one, you got to decide what type of financial aid appeal you're actually going to be using. So, there are generally, well, let's say four types of financial aid appeals. And each one is different. And the way that you go about it is a little different too. So, I've talked about this in the past, and I'm going to tell you about them again because it's worth repeating. The first type of financial aid appeal you can file is called a special circumstances appeal. Second would be a financial hardship appeal. Third would be some kind of an error or a mistake or an omission on your financial aid forms. And then the fourth would be an appeal based upon a competitive offer. So let's dive into these in a little bit more depth, one by one, starting with special circumstances. So, what is a special circumstance? So, let's say that you may have some Financial hardship or change in your family dynamics as of the last time you submitted your financial aid forms. So assuming you submitted your FAFSA and the CSS profile back in the fall, or if your student is already in college and maybe the financial circumstances 2 years ago were different. And so maybe there's a change in, I don't know, your work or your living circumstances. Um, Families are now, sometimes taking care of an elderly parent, or maybe someone is sick and they're not feeling so well, and you're providing them with additional support. Maybe you've got another family member that you're providing actual financial support to. Maybe you had to move, and your living expenses have significantly changed. Now, financial aid forms never ask about your living expenses to begin with. So, unfortunately, they don't count that as part of their financial aid consideration. But if there is a significant reason that you want to let colleges know that you're facing that is causing you some undue hardship, use the special circumstance appeal as a way to ask them to help you bridge the gap and give you more money. Now, that's often closely connected to the financial hardship. Now, not every single financial change is a hardship, but um, here are some common ones that I see. Your income's changed. Maybe it's because of the pandemic, and maybe it's a job loss. Maybe you had to take a different job that you have to do now that you know you had a better job before, and let colleges know about that. Maybe you've had some financial hardship because you've lost some amount of assets. So the savings are not what they used to, or the investments are not what they used to. There's a lot of different reasons that people get into financial hardship. Sometimes it's because of additional debt that you might have taken on. And unfortunately, this is happening more and more and more. I've talked about this in the past, but more and more parents are actually borrowing money for their kids. Uh, not just in like credit card debt necessarily, but to pay for college. So parent loans, and this is in addition to a lot of parents still having some of their own loans that they're paying off from when they were in college or maybe when they were in graduate school. And so, if you've got a financial hardship and it's hard for you to pay the bill, let colleges know. Oftentimes, people discover that there's an error or there was a mistake on their financial aid forms, or maybe there was some omission, meaning that you couldn't even put down some financial situation that was relevant to your finances, but there was no place on the financial aid form to even put it down. So let colleges know. What about if there's a competitive offer? Let's say your student applied to 10 schools, they got into five, and one of them is giving your student the best financial aid offer. So when you look at the bottom line number that you're going to have to come out of pocket, you know, college C or college number three is the best, but it's not their top choice. They would much rather go to their first or second choice school, but they didn't give them enough money. So you can use the third school's financial aid offer as a way of elevating the first two. And so now let's talk about how you actually do this. So there are the four different ways of appealing the financial aid, but then how do you do it? Because it's not about also which reason you're using, but it's how to go through it correctly. So, number one, you got to appeal in the way that colleges want you to appeal. And there is no standard form. I mean, gosh, wouldn't that be nice if everything about financial aid in college was simple? It's not. And on the flip side, though, it's not rocket science. The only thing you have to do really is just look up the college's financial aid appeal process. Every single college lists the way that they would want you to appeal your financial aid award on their website. So use that little magnifying glass or whatever search feature that each of the colleges have on their website and just type in financial aid appeal. See what comes up. In most cases, colleges will tell you specifically what they want you to do. And usually there's either an appeal form that they want you to complete. They might tell you to send an email to a specific email address, or they'll just say, write a letter. But whatever you or whatever their rules are, follow them. Appeal the way that those colleges want you to appeal. So do it correctly. The other tip is appeal as a family. Now, all too often, Parents will take this upon themselves and they'll say, well, my kids don't know anything about money and about our finances. I'm going to do this. And it's good, but it's not as good than if both you and your student participated in the appeal because it's showing the financial aid office your level of commitment. Because I promise you that every family that does appeal doesn't always do it correctly. So if you can do it better, you're going to stand out. Now, on the flip side, a parent might say, God, I don't have time for this. I'm busy. I got to go to work. My kid is the one who's responsible. This is their first, big thing that they've got to do independently. So I'll tell them to file this financial aid appeal. And again, it's great that your kids might be stepping up to the plate, taking responsibility and ownership of this. But let's be real. They're still teenagers and young adults, but they don't have the experience that you have. They don't have the life experience, and it's very easy for them to write a nice letter, but miss some very important element of connecting to the financial aid officer. And I'm going to talk about that in a moment. So apply as a family. There's absolutely nothing wrong with both of you writing statements. Your student can explain why this particular college is their number one choice or the reasons why they really want to study and how important it is for them to get this extra bit of money because otherwise they might not be able to make it happen. And then for you as a parent to give your statement, I'll tell you how to do it correctly, which is the 3 R's of appealing your financial aid. Be respectful, but you got to offer a reason and you have to be real. So let's break this up. In terms of respect, I've seen parents or their kids writing a letter that would make somebody else on the other end feel, yeah, like they're being a bit dismissive. It's like, hey, give me this money or else. Like, if you want my kid to go here, I need more money. I mean, they don't say it in that way, obviously, but that's the undertone. And the thing that you have to remember is that there's going to be a human being on the other end of that letter reading it with their own feelings, their own emotions, and their own, past experiences. So, what do you think is going to get the best outcome or the best thought and feeling and attention from that person reading your letter? So be respectful and quite honestly, thank them in advance for taking the time to consider your financial aid appeal. Say you really appreciate the fact that the college has extended an invitation for your son or daughter. And then explain why you're appealing. Say, but despite the fact that this is the absolute number one choice for my son or daughter, and they've worked so hard, and we've all tried so hard to empower them, to get them to this step, to get to this place. But unfortunately, we've got a bit of a money problem, and we don't think we can do this. And we would hate to break our, sons or daughters' heart. And we'd love your help. Give them a reason. So it's not all about why you want or not what you want, but it's why you want it. So that's where the financial aid appeal reason comes in. Explain if there's a special circumstance that you're facing. Explain if there's a financial change that they might not see. Remember, you filled out financial aid forms in the fall, but also remember that they're looking at your income from when your kids were sophomores in high school. So if things have changed, you got to let them know. Otherwise, college counselors won't know. The financial aid counselors, I mean, they won't know. So tell them there's a reason why you're filling out a financial aid appeal. And then the third thing is be real. Don't be afraid to show your emotions, and certainly don't stop your kids from showing theirs. That's when you give that a little extra, I don't know, it's not a punch in a negative sense of the word, but you got to add more flavor, more color. Be real. And don't fear using emotion. And if your student really loves this college, use the word love. If your student fears, what might happen if they don't have enough money, use the word fear. Don't worry about, not so much worry, but don't think that you have to appeal in this like formal, professional manner, you do have to be respectful, but you also have to be real as a human being and appeal to that other person's sense of logic and reason, but also their heart. I can't stress that enough. And then the other tip I'll give you is you want to include every single advocate that your student might have at that college. Now, you're sending the financial aid appeal to the financial aid office every single time, whether it's a form, a letter, or an email. At the end of the day, it's going to get read by a financial aid officer. That financial aid officer knows nothing about your student other than the financial data that they got from your financial aid application and from this appeal. They know nothing else. But if your student has a relationship with an admission office, or maybe with a professor, or with someone who heads off the department that they're going to be getting into, or the major that they're going to be pursuing, or an athletic coach, a musical teacher, it doesn't matter who that person is. If they know something about your student, how great they are, in whatever way, let them know that you're appealing for the financial aid offer by including them in that email, in that letter. Send them a copy, CC them so that the financial aid office sees that A, you've got advocates at the school, that you're engaged beyond just the money piece, that this is an important thing for you and your student. But then, number three, what you're doing is giving an opportunity to the advocate that your student has at the school to take a step and reach out to the financial aid office and offer them an insight that they would never otherwise have. And I can't tell you how many times this happens. And every time it does, it's amazing because someone I mean, before you'd walk down the hall, knock on the door of the financial aid office and say, hey, I've met this student. I know they just applied for the financial aid appeal. I think they're going to be fantastic. They're exactly the kind of person we would want to attend and to graduate from our college. Please do your best. Now, the best that could happen is that. And a lot of colleges are still working, or administrators are working remotely. So they might not be able to walk over the hall and knock on the door and have the face to face, but they can send an email. They can send a letter. They can call and say the same exact things. You can't control that. I also can't quantify it, but I can tell you that every single time we've helped a family negotiate for more financial aid by going through the appeal process and going through all of the tips that I'm sharing with you, every single time it has worked out in some positive way. But the biggest difference has been made when there is an advocate who takes it upon themselves to reach out to the financial aid office. The outcome of that financial aid appeal is always better than any other. So if you can do that, by all means, please do. And if you want some help, like if you're not quite sure, like this is helpful, I hope. And if it is, please hit the thumbs up, drop your comments in the comment section below so that I know this is helping. Or if you've got questions, ask them. But if you want some personal help and you don't feel like doing this in a live broadcast, reach out. You can go to my website. It's pillar6college.com. Somebody can put that. I would really appreciate that. pillar6college.com. And there's a way for you to reach out. There's also a way for you to download free resources or schedule your complimentary consultation. And I'll help you figure out how to structure your entire financial aid appeal from beginning to end so you know exactly what type of appeal you're using. You can organize the appeal correctly and figure out how to get all of the decision makers on the same page and get the most value out of every single kind of relationship and the touch point that you've got. Um, so, anyways, I hope that was helpful. The last thing I'll share with you is this. In most cases, the financial aid appeal begins with your financial aid applications. Not in every case, but in almost every single case. And I always go back, and whenever somebody reaches out and says, help me go through the appeal process, the first thing I ask them is what or which financial aid form did you use to apply? And let's review it because there's so many little mistakes that families inevitably make on those financial aid forms that later compound and lead to an incorrect expected family contribution or an incorrect picture of your finances that the financial aid office is using to put together your financial aid award. So, in most cases, because there was some small error in the financial aid forms months ago, the financial aid office never got to see the right figures. And so they put together a financial aid packet that wasn't based on your reality. So it always helps to go back to the beginning to make sure that nothing was missed, everything was done correctly. And if there's something was missed, you fix it and you let colleges know. And so here's what I would recommend you do. The first thing when you filled out your financial aid forms, whether it would be the FAFSA or the CSS profile or some other form that the college wanted you to fill out. Remember, you probably did that. I hope you did that back in the fall. If you didn't do that and you're just applied thinking that you'll do it later, well, later is now. Because if you never applied for financial aid, most colleges who accept your student are not going to put together a great financial aid offer because, as far as they're concerned, you don't need any help. They're just going to send you the bill for the full amount. So if you want help, even if you don't think you're going to qualify because you might have heard from your friends that you make too much money or you've got too much in savings, doesn't matter. If you need help paying for college, you got to apply and fill out those forms. Well, remember then the financial aid app that you used is capturing your financial information. And in most cases, it's processing a calculation to determine how much you should be able to pay for college based upon some standard, whether it's the government standard or the college standard. But that's information that gets sent to the colleges. And once your student is accepted, then your file moves on to the financial aid office. So they look at the applications and then they put together your financial aid award. That's what you're about to get, I hope soon. Or maybe you already have them in front of you. And if it's not enough money, you need help, then now the third step is for you to do the financial aid appeal, which is what we've been talking about on this livecast. But I got to take these arrows and reverse them. If you're at the financial aid appeal part of this three-step process, go back to your financial aid application. Again, for every single family that reaches out to us and says, I need your help in appealing and getting us more money, the very first thing I say is great. We're going to start with your financial aid application. We're going to review it to make sure that nothing was missed. And if there were any omissions or errors, or if there were any, blanks, we're going to fix it first so that we can present the financial aid office with the most correct financial information. That's the very first step. And if you're going to reach out to us, get ready, download your student aid report, get a copy of your CSS profile, because I'm going to ask you for it. But if you don't use us, if you're going to do this yourself, do the same thing. Download the copy of your FAFSA, which is the student aid report. Get a copy of your CSS profile and go through each question and answer one by one. Make sure everything was done correctly. Then figure out which financial aid off or appeal you're going to use. I mentioned 4 on this call. Figure out how the college actually wants you to appeal, whether it's through a form that they give you, through a letter or an email. Remember to do this together with your student. Remember to CC or include every advocate that your student might have at the college. Every single person that has helped him or her along should know that you are appealing for more financial aid. And don't worry about being direct and ask for their help and say, if there's anything you can do to help with this appeal process, we would greatly appreciate it. And then remember that none of this can hurt your student. The biggest fear that parents kind of express to me at this time is they say, well, gosh, we're just so happy and relieved that our kid got into college that we don't want to do anything to jeopardize that. Like as if they're thinking if they ask for something, they might get their acceptance letter pulled. Don't worry about that. That can't happen. If your student was given an acceptance letter, they're in. The thing that you have to decide now is can you pay for it without dragging your finances, all the way down, to bare minimum or getting your kids into debt. And if you can pay for it, great. I congratulations on all fronts. But the reality is that something like 87% of all American households do not have enough money to just write the check and not miss it. And most of those families, 84 or 87%, have to borrow. But before you borrow, why don't you first see if you can get money that you don't have to borrow and pay back? Free money, grants, scholarships, tuition discounts. Ask colleges to reach into their endowment funds to give you some more money. And that's what you do, or that's what you can do by filing a financial aid appeal. So I hope this has been helpful. Um, I don't want to hold you any longer than I have to. But if you're a family that has kids on the brink of either going through financial aid appeal, you've applied, you're waiting for acceptance letter, you want some help, reach out. If you've got younger kids and you've got some time, learn as much as you can. Go to our website, pillar6college.com. We've got a lot of free resources. You can get them through email. You can join our mailing list. I send a lot of tips through email that is in addition to these live casts. And so if you're in the learning stage, learn as much as you can. Don't wait until the last minute because the better prepared you are and the better prepared your student is, well, the more money you're going to find and the easier time you'll have paying for college. Because there's really no need for you to have to do what most people do, which is wait until the last minute and then borrow, go deep in debt. And there's so many other ways to pay for college. There's so much money out there. You just need to give yourself a little time. So, anyways, I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to leave you to the rest of your day. And I'll talk to you next Wednesday for another Financial Aid Wednesdays. We'll take another topic apart. If you've got suggestions or things that you want me to talk about, drop them in the comments below. Even if you're watching a replay, we're going to continue monitoring this thread and answering questions. And thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your day. Have a great week. And good luck with everything. I'll talk to you all soon.